at the time that we're recording this, it's been 16 days since Drake released Push Ups when it surfaced online. He ended up claiming it, putting out the real version. It's been 10 days since Push Ups has been officially released on DSPs. And it's also been 10 days since Drake dropped the second diss track, Tailor Made. And there still has been no response from Kendrick Lamar. So the one question that every hip-hop fan has right now is, where is Kendrick Lamar? So how have you felt about Kendrick's silence up to this point?
I think you could look at it from two different perspectives, right? I think a lot of Kendrick fans are looking at it from the perspective of, well, he's being patient, he's being calculated, he's building something up, he didn't want to respond right away. And then I think you have maybe the other side of the fan base on Drake's side that's saying, well, maybe he has nothing whatsoever, and maybe he has everything in the tuck, and he just doesn't necessarily want to release anything because he wants to duck this entire battle. And I think both of the perspectives are kind of flawed low-key, and I'll explain to you why. On the first note, okay, with the Kendrick Lamar fans, I feel like I've been seeing a lot of reception around the community with people saying he's being patient, he's taking his time, let him be, let him do his thing. That's fine and all. But at the end of the day, he opened up this can of worms like I've been seeing on multiple videos, and he's the one that initiated this. So the fact that he's maybe never released something up to this point kind of speaks volumes to maybe where he's at with his track. Now, the other side of things where people are rushing him and people are saying, well, he's lost a battle and, he's ducking everything. I don't think Kendrick Lamar is going to duck Drake. I don't think that's going to be a possibility in the cards, but we did get some word from Absol 8 days ago when he tweeted out this, something is definitely afoot. And then after that, on April 25th, we had gotten word from Terrace Barton, a close collaborator of Kendrick Lamar, saying, I pray for those that feel like it's okay to disrespect the coast. It never ends well. So there has been hints that there is a diss track or that there is at least material leading up to something else. But let me ask you this, all right? Because I kind of gave you the way that I see it with both different perspectives. How are you viewing this situation right now? And are you getting a bit impatient? Are you okay with the time that's being taken? How do you feel about it?
Well, I think Kendrick is due to drop this track. I think ultimately we're all impatient fans right now. When that track does drop, people are going to have super high expectations. I think that's the biggest problem right now, and the biggest sort of roadblock that Kendrick is facing is that with every single day that fucking passes, the more our expectations are going to grow. Like, at this point, I'm expecting Kendrick Lamar to lyrically assassinate Drake. Like, I'm expecting a fucking ether-level track if you're going to be taking upwards of 2 to 3 weeks. And a big talking point within this battle has been, what is usually the average response time when it comes to these battles? So I found a post that actually broke some of it down, and I did some of my own research. And what's interesting is that if you take it back to the most iconic battle that we've gotten in hip-hop, it was Nas and Jay-Z, of course, right? It took Nas a total of 3 months to drop Ether, his response to Jay-Z's takeover, but it took Hove only 7 days to respond to that dedicated diss track with Super Ugly. And I feel like we can compare this situation to the Nas and Hove situation, because when you look at it this way, Takeover was sort of the like that verse, right? Where it was the first direct punch. It was the track that initiated the whole thing.
What was interesting about that feud as well is that if you go back to albums like It Was Written and maybe even some ciphers,
Subliminals.
There was subliminals. Right? But like you had said, Takeover was one of the first songs to be able to open up that can of worms.
It was the first one, so it was the like that of this situation, right? And after Takeover, that was a direct punch. So that was Drake getting knocked, let's say, on like that. And then Ether in this scenario is going to represent push-ups, which is a response. And once you get hit back, I feel like the aggressor needs to stay 10 toes down and hit back immediately, like Hove did with Super Ugly. The biggest time lapse between these battles is always between the initial diss track and the response. And it makes sense, right? That's the unexpected bomb. That's something where the target probably doesn't see it coming. We have no idea what that target has going on in their lives at that time. But once you get that target responding back to you, if you're the one that started it all, you better be ready and be prepared for retaliation and be ready to swing right back. Like we've seen oftentimes. For example, Meek Mill took 2 days to reply to Back with the song Wanna Know. Drake took less than 24 hours to reply to Infrared with Duppy Freestyle. Pusha T took 4 days to respond to Duppy Freestyle with his battle-winning diss track, The Story of Adidon. MGK took 3 days to respond to Not Alike with Rap Devil, and Eminem took 11 days to respond to Rap Devil with Killshot, and he only took 11 days because, unfortunately, Mac Miller had passed away in the meantime of that. Nicki Minaj took 3 days to respond to Hiss with Bigfoot. Historically, it's always been the response to the song that kicks things off that takes the most time, but then you're in the ring.
Absolutely.
Then it's got to be swing for swing.
Yeah, and
so
you're in that mode.
That's sort of why I feel like Kendrick is in the clock, and let me know if you agree. I mean, when you look at Drake's situation, it was also very different, right? The guy was on tour, which is not an excuse because Meek Mill was also on tour when Drake clapped him with the 2 tracks. But that being said, Drake had 20 people to address. Not only that, but he also knew that another album was to come weeks later. So if you're Drake in that situation, are you going to put out a diss track with the possibility of being blindsided a few days or maybe a week later? Does it even make sense?
It doesn't make sense. And I think in Kendrick Lamar's position right now, the clock is ticking, but I also want to play a bit of devil's advocate, right?
Please
because,
do.
I will say this. As much as I want to hear this Kendrick Lamar diss track and as much as I think it is needed right now, and I think that he needs to respond, especially after opening up this can of worms, he should take his time on certain things, and I don't want to hear anything that's half-assed. If he has something that's half-assed in the tuck, which I doubt, but if that is a possibility, then just don't fucking release it, because you know what's going to happen after that. And I think that a lot of people are questioning what type of game and what type of time is Kendrick Lamar going to be coming on. So let me ask you something, all right? Looking at this whole situation and looking at the time that he was taking up to this point, would you say that you're confident in this next Kendrick Lamar diss track, and do you think that he's going to be able to get it to, let's say, levels of push-ups? Because you look at push-ups, yes, I think it's better than like that because it's a dedicated song. There's full of things to break down. There's multiple bars going at Kendrick's money, going at his persona, going at his family in certain instances, right? But when you actually look at it pound for pound, it's not a story of Adidon. And Drake's in the position as well where he's been prompting Kendrick, saying, I have something else for you.
Yeah.
So Kendrick's also in a tough position because whatever you release next, maybe you have that in the back of your mind where it's like, well, fuck, maybe he's going to release something and it completely ruins my entire public perception, right?
Yeah.
So what are you expecting out of this next track?
The only reason where I can think of maybe this is over and maybe Kendrick won't respond, which is not my opinion. I think that there's like 99.9% chance Kendrick responds, but the 0.1% is telling me maybe given Kendrick's tone and the way that he was rapping, the types of shots he was taking at Drake on like that, he really wanted to have a battle for who the best rapper was, right? He wanted to pull out his sword, he wanted Drake to pull out his own sword, and he wanted to have a fucking duel, bar for bar, and see who would come out on top. And to be honest with you, when this whole thing started, that's exactly what I wanted too. But the reality is, battles are not won with metaphors and double entendres. Battles are won by breaking down your opponent and making them look weak. So I think maybe Kendrick was like, fuck. He's bringing up my wife's name now. People are kind of harassing her through her IG comments. This could get super ugly and personal, and maybe I don't want to engage in that. Again, maybe he takes the J. Cole approach, but I don't think that happens. That's my only thing in the back of my head where I'm like, maybe he's stalling. But what's interesting is that Kendrick is taking so much time that people actually believe that this might be over and that he might not be cooking up anything. So Fat Joe, who's an old school rapper, he had something interesting to say. He said, I don't think Kendrick is cooking up. I think that it's over. It doesn't take 3 or 4 weeks to cook up a response. And to address that, I want to get your thoughts on it. My take is that I think that he's wrong in thinking that Kendrick is not cooking up because he fucking definitely is. But I think he's right in the sense of, given how deep Drake cut with those shots that he took, it shouldn't take 3 or 4 weeks. He didn't cut that deep into it. Well, there was nothing really scathing on Kendrick.
Exactly. Absolutely. Well, that's what's interesting is that a lot of people had a lot of different opinions about push-ups, right? People said, oh, the bars are weak. He called them short and, talked about his management deal. Well, if it was that weak, where's the response track? It shouldn't be that hard to
be a layup at that point.
Absolutely. You should be able to come in and absolutely dominate the situation. That's what's fishy about this whole situation, if I'm being completely honest with you. Kendrick Lamar should have had the time to be able to cook it up, right? And there was also word that Kendrick Lamar had a song in the tuck for close to 4 years. So whatever happened to that? And I don't think that would have been the smart move as well, because so much has happened in the past 4 years, and maybe he was working on it as time had gone on. Like, that was just rumors, right, and speculation. I just think that you get into that situation, and now you're ready to get engaged in the battle, and you hear that diss track, and it comes out, and then the excuses start coming out from camps. Well, it wasn't officially released. He has to put it on DSPs, and then it comes, and now you're still taking time to be able to release it, and now it's kind of radio silence from everyone. It looks like a bit of a fishy situation. Now, there was also rumors about this going into the rollout, right? Do you think that this possibly fucks up his rollout for his new album that apparently, and I'm saying this apparently, because of course it's speculation, but there's a lot of different sources that are saying that this is a real thing and that it's coming out for this month of May? Right?
Yeah.
Do you think that this fucks with the possibility of Kendrick Lamar releasing a project because now the pressure's on this? Does he let the smoke sort of settle? Because there was even some statistics that were going around after the Control verse, right? Kendrick Lamar dropped the Control verse, one of the most iconic verses in hip-hop history, put everyone on their back, right? You had gotten responses from JLEC. You had gotten responses from Big Crit. You had gotten
Lupe Fiasco. By the way, I think JLEC might have dissed him in a separate occasion, but... yeah, that being said, yes,
there was
rappers that were responding
there was
to him
responding, but there was never anything back.
because he only wanted Drake. And now he got him. Now he has him.
But regardless, though, do you feel like, that Control verse was maybe the same tactic as he used for the Like That verse, where it's like, let me cause the moment. Let me make something big and grandiose. Let me bring that excitement back to hip-hop. Let me bring the competitive spirit. But now when it's time for me to actually start... Well, I got to answer the door now when I call people over to my house. Well, I'm not going to open the door now.
Absolutely.
I'm going to have to, because that's a very interesting scenario, and I've been seeing those narratives around, right?
100%.
Because at the end of the day, the Like That verse was interesting because everyone thought that everything was going to be coming back down, right? You thought that, it was going to be this fierce battle. We've gotten close to maybe 5 lines from Kendrick Lamar this entire duel.
Absolutely. And Kendrick, like you said, he's done this before. Control, though, was... a bit of a different marketing stunt because that was post-release. Good Kid, Mad City had come out about a year or so later, comes out with a Control verse, boosts the sales, and what do you know? Good Kid, Mad City goes platinum in, I believe it was August of 2013. Also, we know what ended up happening with The Hard Part 4, right? You had... that track being released right before Damn.
And what a track that was.
Not only that, The Hard Part 4, again, he's calling out rappers subliminally. Then you go into Family Ties leading into Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. What is he doing? He's smoking on the top 5s. What happens? Freddie Gibbs kind of replies to it. Says, what fucking top 5s are you smoking on? Vice Lord Poetry. Crickets. Again, I think that he wanted Drake and only Drake during the Control time, and I think once again he is hungry for that battle. And I think that my expectation, if you want to ask me what I think is going to happen, I think within a few weeks Kendrick is going to be responding to Drake, and I think he's going to make an event out of it. I think there's going to be visuals attached. I think there's going to be a project attached to this track. And I feel like he's going to take the Pusha T route in the sense of trying to break down his character and make him try to be perceived differently in some way.
I think it would be an extremely naive move to not take the Pusha T route at this point.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you know that Drake has something. You know that there's something in the tuck for Drake. And if you don't come out guns blazing, especially after all this time, like you said, there's only so many double entendres that the community is going to want to listen to. But let me ask you another question.
Hold on. I want your take on that too. What are your expectations for how it's going to come out and when?
Okay, that's a great question. It's so... I don't want to say yes and I don't want to say no at this point, Lou. I'm being completely honest with you. It's Monday.
No, we know it's coming out. He's responding to this. But the question is how.
I don't know.
Come on,
Lou,
bro.
I don't know. I don't know. It's tough. I hope he does. And he's my favorite rapper of all time, and I really want to see him do it. But at this point in time, it's like it almost looks like there's a miscalculation to a certain extent.
Yeah.
It looks like there's a miscalculation.
Absolutely.
I feel like my favorite rapper of all time opened up a can of worms that the entire hip-hop community wanted to see. You ended up getting the knockback, and there's been no response.
There's another rumor.
What's the rumor?
The other rumor is that Kendrick has not replied because right now we have Kanye hopping on a Like That remix, and you have Rick Ross still trying to ignite the feud by putting out a music video to his diss track, and that he doesn't want to come off like he's part of this alliance that's trying to take down the king.
Yeah, but he
wants the 1v1 fade.
Yeah, but you did that though. He did it. He did that when he released it on Like That. If you didn't want that to happen, don't release your verse on Like That.
Also, no one gives a fuck about Kanye versus Drake in 2024. We know what the main event is, and all the limelight is on you, Kendrick.
Absolutely. Well, it just so happens that Kanye's also promoting Vultures too in a new porn site, while he's doing this.
Yeah.
right? So
Go figure.
yeah, absolutely. You kind of know what the tactics are at this point and what's going on with it. And that's what I find kind of corny about the situation. And we were getting flack for this, but we called it at the beginning. This whole thing has been a really stupid fucking marketing stunt from a lot of different artists.
It has been.
It has been a stupid marketing stunt from a lot of different rappers, and you see it now. And the cards are exposed. There's not a single fucking thing people could tell me at this point from everyone else. Kendrick Lamar, I think, is completely separate from this situation. But when you look at everyone else that has been trying to juice this thing for what it is, and people saying, "Oh, well, he's dissed them for years, this and that." Dude, look at the situation and look at the material that's being blown out. Look at the social media antics. People are taking live interviews just to be able to talk about Drake. You know, the whole Kanye situation. I got you, bro. Who do you got? Who do you got? Concentrate on releasing your albums first before you enter a rap album battle.
Yeah, I know.
You know? And listen, man, I love Kanye West. I love his music. You know, we've been advocating him for years.
Brother, we already got that feud.
Yeah, absolutely. You've gotten that
and
before.
It sucked.
That's over.
It was so underwhelming as a rap battle. Like, if you even want to call it a rap battle, it barely was.
And even at that main event was Pusha T versus Drake. So that's
then you had the shit in 2021 as well with the Don the CLB.
Yeah,
but
that was just
it was awful. It was awful. But yeah, at this point, it's like the longer that this stays at a stalemate and nothing happens, the more and more the whole chess move by Kendrick is gonna feel fugazi, bro. Like, it's gonna feel fugazi at a certain point. It's true. It is. And I think that what's interesting is that the way that Drake was talking on Taylor Made, the next one's gonna bring out the coward in you. No matter how grandiose Kendrick tries to make this response, Drake, I'm going to call this as a prediction, he is probably going to stomp on that moment within a day or two.
Yeah, it's over.
I think he is. And I'm not saying that's going to be the winning track or whatever it is. Who knows? But I think that he's not going to give Kendrick space to breathe because he's so imminent on getting Kendrick to be active. And I feel like, as a fan, that's my biggest complaint with this battle, is that it doesn't feel like it's happening in real time. I gotta wait 3 weeks for one response. I gotta wait another fucking 2 weeks for this guy.
Though.
Like,
yeah, I'm cool
all
on
I'm
it.
trying to say is that, like, in an ideal world, what would happen right now is Drake and Kendrick Lamar get on a stage and literally have a rap battle live for 3 fucking rounds, which is never gonna happen. But I'm just saying, in my own ideal world, that'd be the coolest shit. Also, there's something I thought of. A crazy chess move for Drake right now. Let's just say, because there's now the debate of, is he going to triple down in the meantime, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are asking that. What would be fucking badass is if Drake goes to LA and hops on like an LA Leakers freestyle. That would be a fucking crazy chess move, bro.
That would be like something around like the West Coast or
something
whatever.
like of him.
Absolutely, there's
present there.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely some things that could be done, but at the end of the day, I need the response from Kendrick Lamar. And like you said, I think he probably does drop it, but I'm kind of worrying at this point.
I know.
I'm kind of worrying at this point.
So what's your timeline? Like I said, for me, I'm viewing it as like a couple of weeks and associated to a project.
Okay, so you're saying probably a month.
2 to 3 weeks. I'd say 2 to 3 weeks.
So half a month.
Yeah.
To like mostly. I'm on the same timeline.
Same timeline?
But to be quite honest with you, Lou, I've kind of...
You're over it? You're losing interest? Because a lot of people are.
I don't blame people for losing interest. I haven't lost interest in it because, like, I'm into the sport of this and I really enjoy, you know, seeing two titans go at each other and just being able to break down the bars and to be able to do coverage and to be able to have fun with this. But if this whole thing was just for some, you know, quick commercial numbers and to be able to sell your next album and, you know, to have, like, Kanye and The Weeknd and Rick Ross and Future and Metro Boomin and A$AP Rocky and, you know, basically the entire fucking world come in and just take shit.
Come on.
It's a bit of a weird situation. Now, if Drake would have engaged in those battles separately, not on top of this one, that's a whole different story. I would have loved to seen a Rick Ross and a Drake, you know, rap battle go head to head clean like that. Same thing with Drake and A$AP Rocky. You know, I don't care for The Weeknd and Future. That's not their lane. I don't care.
There's a bigger fish to fry.
Absolutely. And that's Kendrick Lamar. So, guys, let me know.
One more thing before we end it off. Is Kendrick Lamar losing a bit of that persona of being the boogeyman, where it's, again, on Element he rapped, just say his name and I promise that you'll see Candyman?
No, I don't think so. I think it depends on what you get out of the diss track.
Just saying,
don't let the time jade you.
I'm not letting the time jade me, but it's like you had that presence of like, if you say my name, I'll be right there. I'll pop up in the mirror. You know what I mean? And it's like, at this point, that whole idea of like, I'm going to be at your neck right away, it's not there. But like you said, as soon as the track drops, time won't be relevant anymore.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. At the end of the day, I could be as impatient as I want, but Once that track drops, none of that even matters anymore. So, guys, let me know in the comment section, how do you feel about this feud up to this point? Are you over it? Are you still engaged? How do you feel about Kendrick Lamar taking this much time? And let us know, where did Lou and I get it right? Where did we get it wrong? And how should we cover the next battle? But guys, thank you so much for watching this, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.